It's been a while since my last video. I think in my last video I said that my next video would probably be on Christmas, which it's obviously been quite a bit of time since then. So sorry about that if anyone was expecting it and looking forward to it. There's a reason for that, which I'll talk about briefly at the end. But anyway, I'm here now. Didn't get quite as much done in the... How long has it been? I think it's been like 6 weeks. I didn't get nearly as much done as I would have liked to, but like I said, there's a reason for it. I also want to apologize if you get any like weird background noises on this video. I don't think my camera's going to pick it up, but it's pretty windy outside and I have my patio door open since I'm repairing a broken hinge on my laptop and the glue fumes packed quite a punch, so hopefully I can air out my apartment without making this video like crazy weird and loud. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to start with talking about my cross-stitch projects, and then I'll talk about my knitting projects, and that's really all I've worked on in the past, I guess 6 weeks, 5 weeks, something. Anyway, so to get started, the first project that I worked on in that time was my Heaven and Earth designs for Heavenly Beasts, artwork by Kayomi Harai. This is what it's going to look like. Now, I don't remember exactly where it was the last time you saw it. I believe that I was working down this column and had just kind of like barely reached Tiger's shoulder. So this is the first page, and this is the beginning of the second page. As you can see, I'm working down in a column, and I think that I did about here to here over the course of maybe a week. Not a lot of progress, but you know, it's coming along. So I quite like that. In fact, I'm probably going to get back to that pretty soon, which I'm looking forward to. The next project that I worked on was my Dimensions Kit Oriental Butterfly, which is going to look like this when it's done. These tan symbols are printed on the fabric and everything else is stitched. And with that one, I do know exactly where it was. So when you last saw it, I had done this butterfly wing, this body, and then the top wing of this side. So I've done this wing, and then I've been working on filling in this scroll, and then I'm going to do the symbol afterwards, and don't mind all the little fuzzies. That's because I hate turning my work over to finish my ends. Oh, I should probably mention, the For Heavenly Beasts is being done 2/1 on 18 count white Aida, and this is 2/1 on 14 count, the pre-printed kit Aida. And I like this one because it's really, every time I work on this it feels really easy because it's a lot of blocks of color with very little confetti, and I feel like I should hold it like this, but that puts it sideways. And 14 count Aida, so it goes pretty quickly. It visually looks like more for the same amount of work. So there's that guy. I haven't decided whether I'm going to keep working on him and finish that scroll before switching to For Heavenly Beasts, or if I'm just going to go ahead and switch to For Heavenly Beasts and just do it. I don't know. Anyway, somewhere in there, that'll happen. And then I ended up pulling out a project that I haven't worked on in like over a year. I don't have the picture of what it's going to look like, but probably a lot of you who do stitching are familiar with the 12 Days of Christmas sampler that I believe it was Plum Street Samplers put out as a free pattern on their blog last Christmas? It was last Christmas. It was 2015, I believe. Well, I've been working on this tiny piece of 28 count linen that I picked up at a thrift store. I don't know a lot about it. I don't like how see-through it is. I especially don't like it because the fabric threads are relatively thin and the holes are relatively large, so that means my stitches are relatively small and there's like relatively large amounts of space around them, which I don't love. But I have a teeny tiny piece that's just big enough that if I do it 1/1, I can get the whole project on. So I've started the first day. Now the original pattern is charted to go on like a white fabric with mostly red and green and the occasional black and gold accents. Obviously, since I have kind of a burgundy red fabric, I'm doing a dark green for most of it with black and gold accents. So this is the partridge in a pear tree, or it will be. So I didn't get very far on that, but I needed a project that I could just hold in my hand, and this was the only one that I had, and I was in the mood to cross stitch rather than knit that day, so I did that. I do think that I'm going to do more projects 1/1 on 28 count because I like those teeny tiny stitches, but I need to find a fabric that's more the threads are wider and the holes are smaller, so that way my stitches are proportionately larger and I don't feel like there's like empty space around my stitches from the holes of the fabric. Oh, and these threads are like random DMC. I know the black is the 310 or whatever the black color is. I have no idea what the green and the gold are. I don't think. Oh, no. The green is 500. I actually have the green on a skein. The yellow is on an unlabeled bobbin. Who knows? So, anyway, I got a tiny bit of work on that, and I really liked it, so I may end up doing that off and on throughout the next, I don't know, period of time. It was fun. Like I said, I hadn't worked on it in quite a while just because I hadn't been in the mood, but it ended up being a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be to do those teeny tiny stitches, so I may have to keep doing more of that. Anyway, I feel like I'm like really zipping through it, but I don't have a lot to say about these projects. They're all projects you've seen before, and that's the progress that I've made. I made a ton of progress on the butterfly. I love the butterfly. Didn't make a ton of progress on either the 12 Days of Christmas or the 4 Heavenly Beasts, but that's okay. So, I guess we're going to jump straight to the knitting. So, I finished in my goal was to finish this project in 2015, and I think I finished it at like 2 minutes to midnight on December 31st. So I finished it in 2015. This is my metallurgy shawl. And the pattern, I believe, is by Very Busy Monkey. If it's not, I will definitely have the pattern name and I'll have a link to my Ravelry project page for this project, and they'll have the designer's name and the pattern name. I know the pattern's called Metallurgy. I'm pretty sure the designer's Very Busy Monkey. So this was knit out of a random acrylic that I had gotten somewhere and had in my stash. And it was actually probably about a DK weight, and I ended up splitting it into plies to make it about a light fingering weight. And when last you saw it, I believe I had done, well, I know I had done the whole garter section. And I believe that I had gotten about this far into the knitted on border, so from here up. And then since then I did all of this knitted on border. And it's done! And I pinned it out and steam blocked it because it's acrylic and it's holding its shape very nicely. I don't actually wear it. I never intended to wear it. It is a wall hanging. I have a charcoal gray lace shawl that I'm hanging on the wall. That one is a Boo Knits pattern. I believe it's called Out of Darkness. And so this one is a cream colored, not so lacy, more solid shawl, and so they kind of complement each other nicely, and I have them just as wall hangings. I will wear the lace one sometimes. I don't think I'm ever going to wear that one, but it was a good use for the yarn. I think it looks really good, and so that was that. Then, I think I mentioned in the last video that one of my favorite knitting podcast people is Danny from Little Bobbins Knits. And every Christmas Eve, she's been, for the past, I think this is the 3rd year she's done it, but she's done it herself many years before. She does a Christmas Eve cast on and casts on a pair of socks on Christmas Eve. So I figured I'd participate in that, and I did. But I don't think I've posted in the thread since I started them, which is unfortunate. I should probably do that. Anyway, I picked, that's not a great picture of these socks. Let me see if I can find a better picture of these socks. Alright. This is the pattern that I picked to do. It is called Senna, and it's by Cookie A. It's the first Cookie A socks that I've ever knit. Not going to be the last, because I love her design style. And I am knitting this out of a Malabrigo sock. I think, let me see if I have the colorway right here. I do. The colorway is Aguas. It is gorgeous. Oh, and it looks like it's actually showing up properly on camera for once. I have a terrible time. It often looks more blue than it is. It's like a green with blue hints, and, you know, it's Malabrigo, so it's soft and squishy. Now, Malabrigo sock is 100% merino, which means it doesn't have nylon in it to help keep it stronger. So I also have a skein of just, it's a Regia light fingering black that is about the same yarn weight as the Malabrigo. So I'm probably going to do the heels and maybe the toes as well in that. And so I cast on, and on one of the socks I've done the ribbing and then part of the leg pattern. but you can kind of see here. You can see how gorgeously that yarn is knitting up. It's so soft too. The only problem that I had was I misread the chart slightly. So there's one set of cable twists in the little cuff here, and I twisted them the wrong way. So it goes this side over that side, and it should go this side over that side to match up in here where it goes this side over that side. I don't think you'll notice, and I'm not really interested in tearing it out, so it's just going to have to be like that, and we won't worry too much about it. So anyway, that's this. I'm going to put my hand in there and see if I can't, because it's got a little bit of lace to it in here, the little eyelets. So I've done that, so that's the cuff and a little bit of the leg. I think it's half the total length that she calls for. I think she calls for it to be about that long total. So I've got a ways to go. And then I'm doing them in tandem the same way that Danny from Little Bobbins Knits like to knit her socks. So on the other one I did the cuff. So I started this cuff, and then I did this cuff, and I'm knitting the leg, and as soon as I get done with the leg I'm going to switch over to here and do the leg, and then I'll do the heels, and then I'll do the feet, and then I'll do the toes. Which is nice, so you keep doing the same pattern over and over again, and they kind of go together, and you can measure them against each other very easily. So, you know, all these advantages. And I ended up buying 2 sets of the ChowGoo US 1.5, 1.5 size needles, or 2.5 millimeters. I'm reading it off the needle right now. Because I didn't have any 1.5s, and I thought that just based on this yarn weight, because I've knit some socks with 2s and I've knit some socks with 1s, and I was pretty sure that I wanted something right in between those 2 gauges. So that's what I did, and it's working out really well. I believe I'm doing the 72 stitch sock, because that's what I've done pretty successfully for my foot size before. Yeah, I'm doing the 72 stitch version. So I'm doing that, and funny, so when I went to order them, part of the reason I like ChowGoos because I like the metal and I like the cord on the corded ones, but I also like them because they're not cheap. They're not as cheap as like craft store needles, but they're cheap for good quality needles. I usually buy them on eBay, and from various knitting shops that put them up there. And so when I was buying these, I had the choice between either 6-inch long or 8-inch long needles, and I was like, oh, 6-inch long seems about right. And when I got them, I was like, that seems really short, like 6 inches, because most of my needles, my double points that I'm used to, are about 8 inches. And so at first I was like, oh, you know, is the sock gonna, you know, obviously obviously this much thread is not going to be so much that it is in danger of slipping off the needles, but still, it was kind of weird. They kind of hit my hand at a different spot when I'm holding them, which is a little bit weird at first, because I hold with a very, I like hold them against my hand. And so it was kind of like hitting with the point here instead of the point out here. Anyway, I got used to it. I really like them. They're a lot more convenient because they're shorter, so you don't have to pull them quite as far to, you know, to move the stitches along them. So anyway, they're good needles. I like them. I like the sock pattern. I just haven't been in a very much of a knitting mood. I've been more in a cross-stitch mood lately. So eventually. And then my first start of 2017 is a pattern that I've been wanting to do for ages. This is the Scheherazade beaded lace shawl, and it's by Anna Victoria, or by the Lily Pond. And I am doing, actually, so this is the Scheherazade shawl, and this is a variant that has a stockinette center, and I'm doing that because I really like the look of a stockinette center with the lace outside as opposed to being all lace. And she calls this variant Dunyazad, which is apparently Scheherazade's little sister, except I was really into Arabian Nights as a kid and I never remember Scheherazade having a little sister, so I don't know. Anyway, it's this variant. I am going to make it a little bit bigger than hers, so that it's more like the size of the full one, because I want a big shawl. And I'm not doing the beads on it. Can't be bothered. So anyway, I'm working on that, and I've gotten this far. This is just the stockinette portion. This is, let me see what this is. This was one, I think this has been on my to-do list for like 3 years, and I've had the yarn for 2 or 3 years at this point. So this is the Filatura di Crossa Nirvana, made in Italy. It's I believe it's 100% superwash. Yeah, it's 100% superwash extra fine merino. Super soft. Lace weight. The color is 23, whatever the hell that means. I think it's showing up a little bit brighter blue in the camera than it actually is. It's a little, just a touch more muted and a touch more green. Not quite as royal blue as it's looking to me right now, at least. If it looks a little bit more bluey green, then that's probably accurate, and my phone's just showing it wrong. Anyway, it's so soft. This is my first time ever knitting with lace weight. Oh my goodness. It's so fine. Like, it's the smallest, and I love it. I think I prefer knitting with fingering. I think fingering is my absolute favorite weight to knit with, but this is lovely as well. I have a terrible time. Okay, this is the front. I have a terrible time. I can't. The stockinette is so loose that I can't see the front from the back. These are being knit on also Chagoos. I believe that that's not the side that has it printed on. I believe this is a US 3 and like a 40-inch needle. I don't know. Yeah, it's a US 3, a 3.25 millimeter. So it's a little bit loose, but I actually really like that. It's going to be super light and floaty, but also warm because it's merino wool. And so right now I'm just working on the stockinette section. As you can see, it's kind of one of those like shawls that has the long wings, so it'll, you know, I want it to sit, you know, with this at the back of my neck and these coming forward and around, because I want something that will cover my arms if I'm wearing like a short sleeve shirt and it's a little bit cool. But anyway, so far there's not that much lace to it, just stockinette in the edges. So again, not been in a super knitting mood, and this is the boring part because this is just the stockinette part, and I think I'm only about, yeah, I'm about halfway to where I want to go. I want it to be about twice as big before I start the lace. So the lace part's going to be a little bit boring too. That's going to be a lot of lace repeats, but that's okay because it's gorgeous and it's fun to knit with, and I'm looking forward to that one. So, yeah, that's my new start, my only new start so far for 2017. And then the one other thing that I've been doing in my knitting, I've kind of been, when I am in the mood to knit, I don't want to knit very much, so I've been working on my little hexagons for my beekeeper's quilt that is not actually the beekeeper's quilt because I'm not stuffing it, but, you know, little hexagons, they get sewn together into a quilt. This is all out of sock yarn. And speaking of sock yarn, let me show you what sock yarn I've been using, because, so if you recall, I made myself a pair of Rose City rollers in this opal, I don't remember what it was. I remember it was like Fayon and Elfin, because it was like fairies and elves or something was like the line, but I don't know what the color was. And it's okay. I got it in a grab bag from Dizzy Sheep, and it was, you know, great to try, because I've been wanting to try opal for a while. And there were so many colors, I was like, I don't know what color to pick. So they picked one for me, and that was awesome. However, it's just not a color I would use, that I would choose, and it's fine. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how I was going to like them, and I don't love them. It's a rougher wool than, because I have some socks from Knit Picks Felici, and I have some socks from some other one that's like somewhere halfway in between the two in terms of roughness. This one is like more of the like stronger, rougher wool, which is good, except that my feet are very sensitive, and I'm actually finding that it's never caused me real problems, but when I'm walking on it a lot, it feels kind of like it's making some friction and getting some heat in there. It's never given me a blister or anything, but it's not the most comfortable. So I didn't want to make another pair of socks with the leftovers. So I dyed them to use in my sock blanket, because I didn't want all of this color in my blanket. So the first thing I did was I took half of what I had left over and I put it in a pot with some blue food coloring, and I got this, which is gorgeous, and I'm actually considering putting my socks in a pot with some blue food coloring, because dang. And then I took half of this and I put it in a pot with some yellow food coloring, and I got this green, which is not quite as gorgeous, but still really cool. And then that was only half of what I had left over. So I took the other half of what I had left over, and my intention was to break some black, so have some black that went on with some kind of like bluer spots and redder spots and all this jazz. I ended up putting in too much black, so I just have black with a few, and it's got a little bit of red in it too, because the black that I have is fairly blue toned, and I wanted to make sure there was enough red in it, but I put in too much black, so the whole thing is kind of a reddish black with some little specks of other colors. So I was going to divide this out and over-dye some of it more, but never got around to it. But I've been knitting these little hexagons out of it. And you can see there's actually some color variation in there, which I quite like. It's subtle, and because I'm currently knitting with the end that got the most dye on it, as I work through this ball, I'm going to get to the end that had less dye on it, so there'll actually be like little flashes of other colors in here as well. So that's what I was working on with that. Been making a fair bit of progress on that. I have these 4 here, but I know I've made more. They're just shoved into my jar of ends already. So yeah, in fact, these are going to go into the jar now. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning that I was just going to briefly talk about why I've been away for, I think, 6 weeks at this point. So I introduced my dog Lily in my last video, and right around the time I was supposed to do my next video, she ended up getting really sick. We don't actually know how old she was when I got her, because I got her from the shelter, and she was clearly old, but we don't know how old. And she'd clearly been neglected before I had her, so that makes estimating her age even harder, and also gives her some health issues. She'd been having some fairly typical old age stuff, but it just all accelerated all at once. So she spent about 3 weeks on heavy medication. She was feeling fine, still alert and doing stuff, but just not really, she wasn't doing well. So I spent 3 weeks basically constantly cuddling her because that was what she wanted to do and that was what I was down for. And so she ended up dying in her sleep just over a week ago, which is unfortunate, but all things considered, you know, if she was sick, she at least got to die at home in her sleep while she was still alert and happy, and, you know, she still knew who I was and she still wanted to hang out with me, and we were cuddling when she died, so that was good at least. But consequently, I've either been cuddling her when I could be crafting or just not wanting to craft. So didn't want to be a super downer and put that at the beginning, but I figured since I had introduced her last time that I would just let you guys know that that had happened, unfortunately. But I'm not entirely alone, because I have been wanting to get a certain other pet for quite some time, and I actually just got one last night, so let me show you that. So this is my new baby. He doesn't have a formal name yet. I've been calling him Little Dude until I get him fully named. He is a dragon scale beta. I got him last night. The aquarium that he's in, I'll just back up a little bit and hopefully not make anyone sick, is a 5-gallon aquarium. I have live plants, water wisteria here, cryptocoryne undulata here, and then plastic plants and a stone dragon over there. So I picked out the coolest looking. Have I mentioned that he looks super cool? Here, dude, move around. Coolest looking and the most active, although you wouldn't believe it right now, fish in the store. I actually got really lucky. He hadn't even made it to the sales floor. They let me go look at their fish they had that they were getting ready to put out, and I found him. So anyway, he's going to be fun to hang out with, although slightly less petable than a dog, but, you know, good companionship nonetheless. And yeah, like I said, no name yet, just calling him Little Dude. We'll come up with a name later. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the video.